Welcome to Behind Closed Doors, the show that gives you the rare opportunity to get inside buildings you'd never usually be allowed to see, except for once a year when they throw open their doors and declare open house.
On today's show,
I'll be finding out how this Victorian monster made London fit for purpose.
Certainly at the time, it was equivalent to the space shuttle or the Concorde.
Entering the inner sanctum of the biggest Hindu temple in the Western Hemisphere. Wow, look at this. And finding out what on earth this is and where you can get to see it. Throughout the series, I'll be bringing you my own personal previews of just a few of the amazing buildings you can see in a series of very special events taking place throughout the country. This is extraordinary. The doors I'll be going behind today transport us inside buildings that are fit for purpose, designed to fulfill a very specific role or function. Now, what is the relationship between form and function? In other words, how does the way a building look reflect what goes on inside?
as an architectural designer, I'm fascinated by the way buildings can start life as one thing and end up as something completely different. And the first place we're about to see today is the perfect example of exactly that. This is Container City at Trinity Buoy Wharf in London's Docklands. It was completed in just 5 months in 2001. The original idea was to take discarded shipping containers and use them to make cheap office and studio space.
So how do you make a container into habitable space? Well, containers are amazing things because basically they are just space in a box. They're incredibly strong. I mean, they're designed to stack up to 10 high. And despite this metal only being 2 millimeters thick, because it's folded into this corrugated profile, it becomes very stiff. And then you can just cut holes in it. These ones are round, think portholes. Put in insulation, electrics, line it out with plasterboard. Basically got a home.
The first block, Phase 1, was built in 2000. 12 containers measuring 40 feet by 8 feet and weighing 4 tons each were simply stacked on top of each other.
Having got the hang of the basics in Phase 1, with Phase 2, they decided to have a little bit more fun and get a little bit more creative. Shipping containers are so strong, they don't have to be stacked one on top of the other. So here, they hang out over the top of each other. It's like a giant kid's toy. And that's emphasized by the bright colors on the different units. And I love the ingenuity. It's not just the balconies. They needed a lift, so they just turned a shipping container on its end and stuffed in the lift mechanism. I like that, very clever.
So who lives and works at Container City? Well, Sophia and Matt moved their business in here 2 years ago. She creates her own label handbags, and he's a graphic designer.
When we moved in, it was just one single studio, and it was just a plain beige box, basically. We spent so many hours here, we needed to at least be able to cook a bit of food, and so we put a sink in and kitchen area.
So it's actually fairly loose that you can change it to reflect your needs?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was cool. They just said, do whatever you want in there.
Now tell me, what's it actually like sort of working, spending a lot of time in a metal box? Is it very hot in summer, very cold in winter?
Because of the amount of space we have, we just open everything up and it's just a really nice light breeze.
You know, you're all stacked up here in a bunch of metal boxes. You must hear everyone moving and talking and everything.
You don't, actually.
No, really, really quiet.
The more time you spend here, the more you get a feeling that there's a very strong sense of community. People keep stopping and saying hello to each other and chatting. And you might also think that living in a metal box might be quite anonymous and inhuman, but look at the way people are kind of appropriating it and making their own. I mean, look at these window boxes. They're absolutely beautiful. And up here, there's a little statue of the Virgin Mary. And this has got to be the swishiest, swankiest cat ladder in town. So our little feline friends can hop up there onto the balcony. I mean, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but the people who live and work here clearly love it.
Join me after the break when I'll be meeting the man who developed the idea of life in shipping containers. And
we'll be looking at a building shipped halfway around the world in order to meet the specific needs of an ancient tradition. Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors. We'll be getting very special access to must-see buildings not usually open to members of the public.
coming up, I'll be at the spiritual core of Hindu architecture in suburban London.
That is amazing.
Looking at one of the finest examples of blobbertecture.
When you come into this space, it grabs your eyeballs and shakes them all about.
And finding out how the Victorians revolutionised London's sewers.
What's he doing? Is it building up pressure? Today I'm looking at buildings that are fit for purpose. In other words, trying to understand how architecture is shaped by what goes on inside a building.
I'm at Container City in Trinity Buoy Wharf, East London. Now, it may look like a giant Lego set, but they're far from child's play. The shipping containers are prepared off-site, so they're really quick to put up, making them both financially and environmentally practical. I'm meeting Eric Reynolds, who came up with the original idea, to find out more.
How suitable are they for sort of affordable housing, for actually homes rather than work studios?
Well, they perform really well. They're efficient in energy terms. But again, the key thing is they're really inexpensive. Around about 2/3 of the cost of a normal construction. And they're very fast. The time taken on the site is very short. To the building we're standing in now, we put that up in 15 days.
Wow. What, start to finish?
Start to finish.
How long would a traditional building take to come up like
A
this?
year, probably.
And what do you think the lifespan might be of a well-looked-after building?
It should be like the Forth Bridge, indefinite.
So Container City should be around for years to come.
I suppose you might be wondering if this is really architecture. I mean, it's just stacking up ready-made boxes. But in a way, what's a brick building? Bricks are made in a factory and you just stack them up to make a piece of architecture. Yes, it's at a different scale. The same principles apply. But this is ingenuity at its very best. It's about sustainability. 80% of these buildings are made from recycled materials. They use passive ventilation, lots of low-energy lighting. I also really appreciate the industrial aesthetic. But if you don't believe me, come down and have a look for yourself during the open house event.
You can make your own mind up about Container City. Just check out details of one of their special open day events. Now, my next building also started life on the high seas because all the materials used to create it were shipped from Bulgaria and Italy to India and then shipped all the way back to London. So where am I talking about?
On this very typical suburban street in Neasden, North London, you can find one of the most unexpected, extraordinary and exotic pieces of architecture, the Shri Swaminarayan Hindu temple.
It has to be said, Neasden, near Wembley, isn't exactly renowned for its stylish architecture, but it is home to this unbelievable temple built with one purpose in mind, to be an inspiring place of worship. The Shri Swaminarayan temple stands as a shining symbol for the 700,000 Hindus in the UK. The annual open house event is the perfect opportunity to come along and see it.
The first thing that really strikes you about this building is the detail, the quality of the sculpture and the decoration. It's quite extraordinarily beautiful, and it's incredibly authentic. I've been lucky enough to go to India a couple of times, and this is exactly the same as the temples you'd find there. But what I find so amazing is that outside of the compound here, the temple compound, life goes on. It's the melee of day-to-day existence. But as soon as you come through those gates, somehow it feels like you're transcending onto a different spiritual plane. It's incredibly calm.
But before we go inside, I want to know if the story behind the temple is as amazing as the building itself. I'm meeting Girish Patel, who was instrumental in the construction of the temple, known to Hindus as a mandir.
Well, the mandir was made from natural materials, particularly stone. And almost 5,000 tons of stone has been used in this mandir. 3,000 of it was Bulgarian limestone and 2,000 tons was marble. And we had to acquire the limestone from Bulgaria, shipped it across the Red Sea to India, where they were individually carved, disassembled, then shipped back to London and reassembled. All 30,000 separate carved stone pieces were assembled together and made into this very unique mandir, which at the time was the largest traditional Hindu mandir outside India in the world.
So it was like an enormous jigsaw puzzle.
Indeed.
Somebody made it, took it apart, put it in boxes, shipped it over here and put it back together again.
It was a massive logistic exercise, particularly in London. And of course, we had, almost 1,000 craftsmen who carved the pieces in India, but we also had about 60 craftsmen here who put everything together with our volunteers, a lot of them full-time, who put the mandir together, and it was finally completed on 18th August 1995. The mandir is, in fact, an embodiment of the human form. The domes, which we refer to as gumat, is considered as the sky. The base is considered the feet of the mandir. And the soul, which is the most important part of the mandir, is the inner sanctum where the deities lay.
It's time to go inside, but before I do, I've got to take my shoes off to respect the purity of the temple.
And behind these closed doors lies the inner sanctum of the temple, the most holy part, its very soul.
Wow, look at this. I thought the outside was intricate, but look at this. Every square inch is carved. Look at these beautiful flowers, the amazing petals. It's like lacework on the side here.
The keystone at the top of the main dome here weighs 2.5 tons and is actually holding up the rest of the roof. It was lifted and locked into place using a crane. If you were to remove it without scaffolding, the entire dome would collapse.
That is amazing. This ring of deities all around, beautifully carved. And then these are essential characters. These are the main deities. These guys is what this whole building is about.
This is the main shrine. In the center is our Lord Swaminarayan. On the left-hand side is first ideal spiritual leader called Gunatithananda Swami. And he brought with him when he came on this earth. On the right-hand side is Gopalan Swami, his ideal devotee.
And what's so special about these deities?
See, all those deities are beautifully dressed in the morning before 7 o'clock, right? At night, and they change their clothing as we do as well. In other words, regard the god as part of the family members. So whatever we do, we offer to the gods as well. The sadhus or the monks, they offer the morning breakfast, lunch, evening meal, right?
So they're treated exactly like a member of the family?
Exactly.
And do they have different outfits or the same outfit every day?
No. Different outfit. Every day in the morning, 7 o'clock, the outfit is changed. At night time, they change again, the bed clothings.
So they've got a wardrobe somewhere, have they?
Oh yes, down in the basement, there's a basement full of clothes.
Does that go for all of the deities in this room?
All the deities in this room.
How many are there?
Well, see, in the center is Lord Swaminarayan. On the right-hand side is Shiva. On the left-hand side is Ram and Sita. And is Hanuman and Ganesh.
So there's about 8 or 9
That's right.
deities that you have to dress, feed, put to bed, wash.
Every day.
Every day.
It's
a
a
lot
big
of
job.
work.
It is a big job, yes.
The awe-inspiring Shri Swaminarayan temple is open 7 days a week and everyone is welcome. Do pay it a visit.
The deities are about to have their lunch and a rest, and for that ceremony the monks need complete privacy, so they're shutting all the doors to the shrine. So let's leave. I'm really impressed by this temple and the community who made it. Imagine 26,300 bits of stone shipped around the world, intricately carved, brought back and put together to make that. I also love the fact that it gets its fitness for purpose, its relevance, not by being groundbreaking and forward-looking, but by looking backwards and doing things the way they've always been done for thousands of years, and by creating a building that will last for 1,000 years. But the reason I really think you should come and see this temple is because it gives an incredible insight into Hinduism, into their architecture, aesthetics, sculpture, and spirituality. And that, in modern-day multicultural Britain, is absolutely priceless.
While the stones for Shri Temple were shipped across the water, my next building is a triumph of engineering whose story starts underwater, below the River Mersey in Liverpool, to be precise.
I'm in the Queensway tunnel, which connects Birkenhead right to the heart of Liverpool. At just over 2 miles in length, when it was completed in 1934, it was the longest underwater tunnel anywhere on the planet. Each year, 11.5 million vehicles come through here. That's 31,000 cars, vans, buses and motorbikes every day.
Every single one of them emits a cocktail of noxious exhaust fumes, which, in an enclosed space, could be lethal.
That is where our next building comes in.
When the tunnel was built, the engineers cleverly incorporated a ventilation system to suck exhaust fumes out through ducts in the roof and blow new air in through holes under the curbs.
There's this incredible network of tunnels where everything kind of is smooth to allow and encourage the airflow. So this is all kind of streamlined. It's like being in the bronchial or lungs of some giant beast.
And it's a heavy breathing beast too. Wherever you go in this mile-long tunnel, you can feel the draft from the ventilation system doing its stuff.
I'm more than 30 meters below the ground here, yet there's a strong draft of air rushing past me. The question is, what is pumping that?
The answer lies in the building that I've come to see. But to find out how fit for purpose it is, I've got to do some climbing.
It's quite a long way. It's equivalent of more than 10 stories I've just come up. But this is effectively the entrance to the next building I'm going to see. And behind these closed doors is something quite extraordinary. And this is it. George's Dock ventilation tower. And I'm right in the heart of it here. The 7-story high cavernous fan room.
It's here in this huge space that fresh air is drawn in from the outside and forced down into the ventilation ducts below. When it comes to pumping air into a 2-mile-long tunnel, size really does matter.
The middle of the room is a pair of the biggest fans you'll ever see. Look at the size of that thing. It's 28 foot in diameter. And when they're at full blast, they can pump 480,000 cubic feet of air a minute. I mean, that is just a staggering volume of air.
In fact, enough to fill 2 full-size hot air balloons in just 1 minute. The custom-made fans are so immense, the whole building had to be built around them because they've never had fitted in through the door. They're driven by a beautifully engineered system of electric motors and gearboxes dating from the 1930s. This building is not just fit for purpose, it's built to last.
It's an old lady that we look after and keep going. We do have things that break down. We're in the issue that we're looking at bearings on the fans, and some of those 70-year-old bearings are still the same bearings as they were when they were.
So how many times will they have turned?
I have no idea.
Billions?
Yes.
It must be billions of rotations.
Yes.
What is the electricity bill? Because I imagine that's not, that must be taking a lot of power to turn.
Yes, we're looking at a bill of the order of £750,000 a year. So we have to be very careful with the electricity that we use.
This must have been an incredibly state-of-the-art building when it was completed in 1934.
Yes, and I think you look at it from 2 perspectives. The fact that it's engineering and architecture working together. So the engineering was state-of-the-art, and the architecture was putting an artistic facade onto it, as you'll see on the outside of the building.
And coming up, I'll be stepping outside to admire the ventilation tower's stunning exterior.
It's an amazing example of Art Deco extravagance.
And I'll be finding out how blob architecture is created and inflated.
Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors. We'll be getting access to buildings usually closed to the likes of you and me, but that once a year allow everybody in.
It's all part of an annual series of events that take place around Britain, and I'm giving you a special preview of some of the amazing buildings that you could go along and visit. Today, I'm looking at buildings that are fit for purpose. In other words, built with a particular function in mind. My search has taken me deep underground, exploring the innards of the 1934 George's Dock ventilation tower in Liverpool.
So we've seen the guts of the building, all the work that goes on here, and I've come up to the lobby, and it's here that you start to get a sense of what the building is like above ground. Every single square inch of this place has been decorated and treated in a really, really careful way. This is just the lobby. You wait till you see the outside.
The ventilation tower sits in the heart of the port alongside Liverpool's 3 Graces, the Liver Building, the Cunard Building and the Port of Liverpool Building. With such famous neighbours, the ventilation tower might have looked like a poor relation. Fortunately, though, the job of designing the exterior went to a visionary architect called Herbert Rouse.
And this is it, Rouse's masterpiece. It's an amazing example of Art Deco extravagant. It's probably the best looking chimney you'll ever see.
Rouse really went to town to try and disguise the working function of the ventilation tower. Essentially, the building draws down fresh air and then pumps exhaust fumes out of the central tower. But Rouse turned function into beauty with a building peppered with classic Art Deco design touches.
One of my favourite things is the kind of columns on the side of the chimney. Again, they're abstracted, and on top of that, there's some kind of strange eagle sculpture. And that's again referenced in these little scalloping wings around the very top of the air exhaust system.
But perhaps the most striking feature of this building is the 3 sculptures by the main entrance, which Rouse had produced by local artists Thomas and Capstick. Either side of the main door are black granite figures called Night and Day, who symbolise the fact the tunnel never closes. And then above the door is a racing motorcyclist who looks ready to burst out of the wall. Legend has it the inspiration for this figure was pioneering aviator Amy Johnson.
This building is a triumph of form and function. It was so technically advanced in its day, and it still works perfectly now, 70 years later, and it looks incredible. It was built at a time when this country was so prosperous and did things properly. It's a very generous, civic-minded piece of architecture. It could have just been a utilitarian chimney, but it isn't. They wanted to celebrate the achievement of Queensway Tunnel, and look at how they did it.
If you want to marvel at the architecture and engineering of the George's Dock Ventilation Tower, then go along during the annual Heritage Open Days event. Or you can book a place on one of their more regular tours.
If you're interested in radical architecture, then you have to come here to Will Alsop's new Blizzard building. When you come into this space, it grabs your eyeballs and shakes them all about. It's been called blobbytecture, and the reason is quite obvious. The space is dominated by these incredibly brightly coloured, strange-shaped pods that hang in mid-air. And if you look closely at them, you actually get a very good clue as to the purpose of this building.
These blobby pods you see hanging here are teaching spaces for seminars and lectures and are intended to be reminiscent of the enormous cells and molecules. Because
this is the Biomedical Science Laboratory at Queen Mary University, London, and it's named after Sir William Blizzard, the founder of England's first medical school.
the Blizzard building was designed to be a visionary landmark building to attract the best research and teaching talent to Queen Mary's University. As the biomedical facility, this building houses hugely important research on some of the most dangerous infectious diseases known to man, potentially big business, as well as vital work in helping to save lives.
Right, I think it's about time I explained exactly how this building works, because it's a little bit confusing. Over there is the big glass pavilion in which are those large, blobby, cell-like structures. And in the basement of there is that big open laboratory. Underneath my feet here in this plaza are the more secure, enclosed laboratories with all the kind of really hardcore stuff going over there. And then all of that louvered stuff up there is the plant. It's the air conditioning, it's the electrical stuff, because these laboratories need a huge amount of servicing. I hope that's clear.
Hanging above the open plan space are three giant pods. The orange one, called the centre of the cell, is the largest, with an area of 195 square metres on 2 levels. The pods are used for meetings and lectures, while the laboratory research happens below.
Dug down 5.5 metres below street level is the largest medical university research laboratory in the country. It's the size of a football pitch. And while it's all fun and games and frivolity up here, down there is where the serious stuff goes on. And to get a real sense of the size of it, I'm going to go and have a look. When you get down here onto the laboratory floor, 2 things strike you. One is these pods, you really get a sense of them. The second is the daylight. I mean, considering we're at the bottom of a deep canyon here, there is lots of lovely light. The labs are laid out here underneath the pods, and then they run out underneath that courtyard that connects the 2 buildings up on ground level. And the idea behind that is that each department sits side by side to encourage cross-fertilisation of ideas and collaboration.
The lab itself isn't usually open to the public unless you're an invited visitor, but we're getting a sneaky preview to find out if it's really fit for purpose. Dr. Jeff Maskell is one of the senior lab managers overseeing a wide range of research, including neuroscience, gastroenterology, dentistry, and infectious diseases.
What on earth did you think when you first saw the drawings for this building? Be straight with me.
Well, I thought, what on earth is this? I just couldn't believe it. And the main thing is, the main problem as I saw it, is the fact that a large proportion of it is open plan. It's open to people that are working in the write-up areas and offices. And here we are working down here in the labs, working with chemicals and other agents. And it's open, you know, literally open to everyone else, which I saw as a major health and safety issue.
So that's the point of the closed-off offices over there. So you've split the working practices.
That's right. So anything that's more hazardous will take place over there in the enclosed areas. And of course we have higher levels. We have also containment level 3 labs where we work with TB, HIV, which are, you know, obviously higher security level laboratories.
Which is your favourite of the pods?
My favourite, I think, has to be the cloud. This one just directly above here. I like the inside, the wooden panelling. I think it's rather nice, and the acoustics are quite good in there. The spiky pod, I'm not so keen on. It's rather dark and dismal inside, and also there's a problem with the acoustics there because you can hear a lot of what's going on outside and vice versa. If you have a lecturer in there with a loud booming voice, then you can hear it all over the open plan area, so that is a bit of a problem.
There's a few privacy issues there.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So what about these pods? Well, the white one in the centre that looks a bit like a headless sheep is called Cloud and was designed to be an adaptable meeting room, as was the big black one called Spiky. This is the most complicated geometrical tensile form ever completed. So just how did the architects see if it was going to work? Using a pair of tights and some dowling rods, and some clever computer wizardry stuff, of course. One of the architects who had a large hand in the creation of the Blizzard building, particularly the pods, is Tarek Merlin.
I think you can say when we started thinking about this building, we thought about what the scientists do on their daily lives, and they spend most of their time staring down microscopes and considering things at a cellular and molecular level. So we did the same. We immersed ourselves in those images, and if you do that, you see these amazing forms and colours that brought these forms to life.
When you proposed this scheme and the client said yes, you must have slightly pinched yourself because it's very outlandish.
It is. The client asked for an outlandish building almost in their brief, and the first line said, we want a landmark building that's going to attract the best students and the best PhD scientists and professors across the world. So we knew that they wanted something visionary and exciting. The building has to attract the best in order to achieve the best. It has been a wonderful building to work on, and does still give me that wow factor when you walk in, definitely.
You know, part of me, the serious side of me, didn't want to like this building. I thought it was frivolous, willful, driven by the architect's ego. But having been here, I'm really impressed. You see, the thing about an office is it needs to, in my mind, fulfill two functions. One is it needs to help the process of getting work done, and clearly those laboratories do exactly that. And the second function is it needs to inspire. It needs to help creativity. It needs to make people have big ideas. And looking around you, this is clearly the kind of building that you can have big ideas in. So to my mind, this building is eminently fit for purpose.
If you want to admire the Blizzard building and get a glimpse of those pods, then check details of London's annual open house event. The pioneering research going on at Queen Mary University is ultimately about saving lives. And today's final fit-for-purpose building was also a lifesaver.
150 years ago, London, like many other expanding cities, was producing an incredible, increasing amount of human and industrial waste. Quite simply, it couldn't cope. The Thames was heaving with raw sewage and carcasses. It was the perfect breeding ground for waterborne diseases. In fact, each year in London, more than 20,000 people were dying from cholera alone.
So bad was the summer of 1858, a time historically known as the Great Stink, that Joseph Bazalgette, engineer at London's Metropolitan Board of Works, was put on the case. His solution? An advanced and extensive underground sewage system, which is still in use today.
But none of it would have been possible without this, the jewel in the crown of the Victorian sewage system. And when it was completed, it revolutionised public health in London. It is the Crossness pumping station. And in its prime, it was capable of moving 17 million gallons of sewage out to the sea every day. Now that's the equivalent of nearly 13 million toilet flushes, enough to fill 31 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
The Crossness pumping station was built in the far east of London, close to the sea, so the sewage could be released easily with the outgoing tide.
I mean, what an example of Victorian industrial architecture. The quality of craftsmanship, the quality of the brickwork. Look at the lovely red arches there, the Romanesque arches, and then the string coursing around it, above it, the carved columns, the pairs and threes. I mean, it's a sewage pumping station.
And if you look carefully, you'll see a carved caricature of the great engineer himself, Joseph Bazalgette, immortalised on the side of the building.
But if you think this is slightly over the top and very, very special, you wait till you see inside. This is extraordinary, an incredible example of Victorian design. It's an octagon in the centre of the building. It's designed to allow light to flood in from those roof lights, down through the floor above, down here, and then carry on down into the basement. And up here, look, these are fig's leaves. These must be figs. Seems quite apt in a sewage pumping station, given what figs do to your digestive system. And I love up here, MBW, Metropolitan Board of Works. They weren't mucking around. And the whole point of this building was to house 4 giant steam engines.
When they were built by James Watt over a century ago, these engines cost over £4 million, or 250 million in today's money. And although Crossness is no longer in use as a pumping station, it's been lovingly restored and maintained by around 40 volunteers.
Join me after the break when I'll be starting one of these huge steam engines up. I can't wait. That's fantastic. Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors. Today I'm looking at buildings that are fit for purpose, which is why I'm here at the Crossness pumping station to find out how this building helped the Victorians crack London's serious sewage problem.
Inside this incredibly ornate building are 4 of the largest rotary beam engines in the world. And because they were so cutting edge, the day they were switched on 143 years ago was a truly historic moment.
Now imagine this place packed to the rafters with the great and the good, all waiting with anticipation for the giant engines to be turned on by Albert Edward, Prince of Wales. It's very much like this, the wheel that he turned it on. Now what do I do to make it work?
Simply blow the whistle, let people know you're about to start.
Blow the whistle.
That's it, pull that cord.
That's fantastic. And then?
Now simply 2.5 turns on the handle.
1, 2, ooh. What's he doing? Is he building up pressure?
She's away.
Oh my God. Oh my word. Wow. That is, the whole building is kind of shaking and trembling as it built up steam. That was quite terrifying.
Once up and running, the pressure of the steam powers a huge flywheel, which by turning, keeps up the momentum of the whole pumping system.
Now this thing weighs 52 tons. That's more than 5 London double-decker buses. It's just silently turning around. So you can feel the weight of the thing moving there.
And it's connected to this huge rocking beam above, which weighs in at another whopping 47 tons.
And this machine is located on 1, 2, 3, 4 different stories. And it's down here in the basement that you can really see the business end of this whole incredible construction. At the end of this giant thrust rod is a huge pump cylinder. And every time it goes up and down, it lifts 6 tons of sewage up from 30 foot below me and away to the reservoir.
Then at high tide, it flowed out of the reservoir and off to the sea.
At its prime, it was running at about 11 cycles per minute. That's nearly 4,000 tons per hour for this one cylinder, and there were 8 of them. That is an awful lot of you-know-what. And the whole point of it was in order to keep London's drinking water safe and clean.
These beam engines remained in service until a new sewage treatment plant opened in 1956, when the pumping station was abandoned and left to decay. 30 years later, work began to bring it back to its former glory. Simon Hodges is one of the volunteers involved in this restoration process.
What kind of thrill do you get when you come and you see it every day?
Oh, it's undescribable. It never fail to impress me. I walk into the building, I get a tingle down my spine. You know, it really is even today, it's a privilege to be allowed to close this sort of great machinery.
And when you turn it on, it kind of has that moment where it's thinking about what it's going to do, and you feel the pressure, and it's all, oh my God.
In the newspaper reports of the time when Prince of Wales first started in 1865, they actually say that as he turned the handle, a rumble was felt through the floor of the building, and we can still feel that today as we started.
Yeah. And were these the state-of-the-art thing in their day?
Certainly at the time, it was equivalent to the Space Shuttle or the Concorde. It was that, for the people at the time, it was that kind of moment for them, really was. It was the pinnacle of what they could do.
This building is a triumph of Victorian ingenuity, a fascinating mix of functionality, style, and confidence. It's like a cathedral to engineering. Fit for purpose? Absolutely. But more to the point, this building ultimately made the entire of London fit for purpose as a place to live.
You can only see this historic steam engine at Crossness pumping station during one of the special visiting days, which have to be booked in advance.
Well, what a journey we've been on, from the brutal functionality of Container City and the spiritually uplifting Hindu temple. There's also been some real surprises. The mind-stimulating environment of that laboratory and the craft and beauty of the ventilation tower. Who would have thought of that? To my mind, all of them totally fit for purpose. But don't just take my word for it. You can visit all of these buildings, either as a part of open house or a series of special events. Trust me, go and see them. You won't be disappointed.